Alright guys, a surveyor wishes to measure the angle of a church, measure the angle of elevation. She finds that the angle increases from 30 to 40 after walking 25 metres towards the church. The height of the church, correct nearest mirror. Now some people tried this, they tried calling this x and they said 25 plus x on the bottom of a right angled triangle, and then what they said then was call this y, call that 30, call that h. Straight away, too many different letters for one triangle. It's a bad call. Don't do it that way. You can't do it that way. It's too difficult. Now, here's the way you do it. Straight angle, 140 degrees. 140 plus 30 degrees leaves me 10 on top. We're now going to do the sine rule. And we're going to look for this angle here, this length here. We're going to call it, we're going to call this length here x. This length is the most important side, Stuart. The reason why it's the most important side is the side that's common to both triangles. We're next going to do x divided by sine 30 equals 25 is the only information we have, so we have to use 25 divided by the sine opposite that using the sine rule. Cross multiply up the sine 30 and do it all in one go. And when you do this all in one go, what you're going to realise is that it's going to turn out to be 71.98 metres. Okay, now you know that this is 71.98. I haven't got the answer yet, so I'm still not rounding off just yet. Okay, this here is 90 degrees. We're assuming 90, as Rory rightly said. I'm assuming it's flat ground and the church goes directly upwards. Now we have a right angled triangle. We know the hypotenuse and we're looking for the opposite. What function should I use? O and H, sin or sine. Sine 40 equals opposite, which we'll call H. H over the hypotenuse, which is 71.98. Cross multiply up to 71.98. H equals 71.98 sine 40. Okay? Now and only now do you start rounding up, and H will therefore equal 46 metres. Okay? Happy with that? Now that's done. That first part is worth 10. Okay? Next part. Name the instrument used to measure the angles of elevation. It's called a clinometer. Okay? Clinometer. Describe how the instrument is used to obtain one of the angles. Okay? Some of you did an absolutely brilliant answer with this. The answer you did was you actually drew out your a protractor hanging upside down. Okay? And what you did there was you turned it upside down like so. And then what you said was, so you drew a protractor, you labelled it, you drew a weight hanging directly down, and then what you said is when you increase the angle looking upwards, basically something like this, when you increase the angle here, it's basically the angle in between where it was, which is always 90 degrees, and this is the angle I'm looking upwards. Okay, so to variably describe that, we're going to show you how to variably describe that. Now I'm just going to type it out here. Okay, place the clinometer horizontal with the ground. It should read 0 or 90 degrees depending on what type of clinometer you're using. Then looking through the clinometer, look at the top of the church, then take a note of your new reading of angle. Okay? Now some people, if I had time in a test, I'd really sell it. I'd say this reads This here reads, let's say, what is it? That's 90, 80, 70. It reads, let's say, 66, okay? So example would be reading of 66. And then you can say 90 degrees minus 66 degrees means the angle going upwards is going to be 24 degrees. Okay, you can do that if you want to really sell it home. Okay, it's on a scale. In the test, it'll be 0, 2, 4, 5. 2 is a basic answer, not enough info. 4 is very close, but just lacking. Just the language might be a bit ambiguous. And number 5 would be you drew your diagram and you really spelt it out. Okay, 20 marks in total for that question. Moving on, okay. Now, this one was not great on the answer in here, guys. Okay, very few people seem to get it out. Now, guys, what we're gonna do is we're gonna answer all the questions in degrees first. Upon the completion of degrees, we're then going to convert it into radians, okay? Now, first most common mistake, you treated it like regular maths. I always told you that the angle does not go out. You cannot do this. Okay, you're not allowed to do that. Okay? Now, you would be allowed to do that if it looked like this. If it looked like 3 sine theta equals minus 1, then you could bring the 3 down. But you can't do it for 3 theta. The reason being, this here is a function. And there is only one way to separate an angle from its function. And that's using sine inverse, cos inverse, or tan inverse. You cannot do that. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to find out what is sine inverse 3 theta equals sine inverse minus 1. What is sine inverse minus 1? In your calculator it will say minus 90. Now, put it this way, guys. If plus 90 means I go in this direction, plus 90 means I go this direction, what do you think minus 90 means? Opposite direction. Now what is this angle here? 270. 3 theta ends up to be 270 degrees. Now, 270 degrees. What else do we have to take into consideration? We got to take into account the number of revolutions in which it repeats itself. That is 360 degrees multiplied by n. I'll get to radians in a second. Okay. This here is currently in degrees. We don't want degrees, we want radians. To convert it into radians, you always divide. Pi radians is 180 degrees. You got it? Divide by 180 and add on a pi. Okay? So what happens when I divide by 180? I get 3 theta equals, that's going to be 3 over 2 pi. And this one here, 2 n pi. Now it's in radians. Okay? Upon completion in radians, we still don't have theta. We have 3 theta. Divide across by 3. And we're going to get pi over 2. Oh, sorry, just pi over 2, excuse me. Pi over 2 when you divide across by 3. Divide this one across by 3. 2 over 3 n pi. You have answered part 1 of this question. You've answered this one here. Okay? You have not answered the second part. That's going for 5 marks. Now that you've answered that, what you're next going to do is you're going to do n equals 0, n equals 1. When do you have to stop, guys? You have to stop when you get a number that's bigger than 2 pi. It says it here. A number that's bigger than 2 pi or a number that's bigger than 360 degrees. So what you're going to do is we're going to n equals 0. The answer is pi over 2. When n equals 1, it wants us to add pi over 2 plus 2 over 3 times 1 times pi. So it's basically a half plus 2/3. 0.5 plus 2/3. And what we get here is 7 over 6 pi. So 7 pi over 6. Go again. Do n equals 2. Theta equals pi over 2 plus 2 over 3 times 2 times pi. Once again, you can actually enter all that into the calculator if you really, really want. Okay, so you could actually go about so saying, look, it's going to be pi over 2 plus 2 times 2, 2 over 3, excuse me. 2 over 3 times 2 times pi, close bracket, and we get 11 pi over 6. Is 11 pi over 6 less than 2 pi? Yeah. It is, because 2 pi is 12 over 6, so it doesn't go until it's 11 pi over 6. So guys, there's our answer for 1, 2 and 3. Do you got it? Connor? Okay guys, the next one. Okay. The next one is this. Okay. This one here is a bit more difficult because it's not one of the easy numbers. It's 0.3, okay? Now, we're going to cos inverse it. So we're going to get 2 theta equals cos inverse 0.3. Now remember, cos is positive. Means it's available in the first and the fourth quadrants. Cos inverse 0.3. Now I'm going to do it in degrees at the start, okay? If you're doing it in degrees, make sure that your calculator is in degree mode, okay? So I'm going to cos inverse 0.3. And what I get there is 72.54, okay? 2 theta equals 72.54. The 72.54 accounts for which quadrant? First quadrant. What's the rule for the fourth quadrant? 360 minus reference angle. So just 360 minus your answer. 287.46. Now, what we're not taking into consideration is the rotations. So there's 2 separate answers here, right? We're going to go 2 separate paths. Okay, just divide it down the middle. Path A is 2 theta, ends up to be, just use different colours here, 72.54 plus the 360 n, the 360 rotations. The second one, 2 theta equals 72.54, oh sorry, not 72.54, 287.46 plus the rotations, 360 n, I think, yeah. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to convert them all into pi radians, okay? Now, okay. Now, we can leave it all in decimals if we want, okay? I intend to leave this all in decimals, okay? And I'm going to show you what I mean now. Let's start off with dividing it first, okay? Theta ends up to be, what's that going to be, 36.27 plus 180 n. The second one's going to be theta equals 287.46 divided by 2? 3.73. 143.73 plus 180 n. Convert to radians. To convert degrees to radians, you get your degrees, you divide it by 180, and you add on a pi behind it. Do you understand? So your degrees is 36.27. You're going to divide that by 36.27 divided by 180 and add on a pi. Now, it's 0.2 pi, do you understand? Everybody happy with that? Theta equals 0.2 pi plus, now what's 180? 180 is pi, so n pi. The next one, 143.73. 143.73 divided by 180, and that's going to turn it into 0.7985. Let's call it 0.8 pi. Theta equals 0.8 pi, and once again this is going to be this here is going to be 180, which is pi radians, so n pi. Now you have a couple of answers. Now these answers all depend on that's the general answer done. Okay, so that's your two general answers. You've answered part 1, gone. You're now on part 2, where you put in the n values and make sure it doesn't go bigger than 2 pi. So we're going to do here, put in the n values. N equals 0, theta equals 0.2 pi. N equals 1, theta equals, anybody? 1.2 pi, because it's pi plus 0.2. N equals 2, theta equals, and what's wrong with 2.2 pi?
Over 2 pi.
It's over 2 pi, it's too big. Go again. Theta equals, N equals 0, theta equals 0.8 pi. N equals 1, theta equals 1.8 pi, and you automatically know the next one's going to be too big. Okay, moving on. O is the center of a circle of radius 6. A and B are points on the circle, and the angle AOB equals 2 pi over 3. Find the minor segment Hugo, or the shaded region. Write your answer in this form here. This form here means we're going to have no decimals. I'm keeping it all in third form. First things first, let's get the area of the full sector. Area of a sector?
Area squared divided by.
Area sector is a half r squared theta. Theta has to be in radians. It cannot be in degrees. A half 6 squared times 2 pi over 3, and what that will get me is 12 pi. 5 marks going for that. Part 2, area of a triangle. Now, area of a triangle is a half AB sine of the angle in between. It's a half 6 multiplied by 6, because we know this is 6 and we know this is 6. What's the angle in between? Sine 2 pi over 3. Go to your calculator. Put it into radian mode. Once you have it in radian mode, what you can do then is a half 6 times 6, 6 bracket 6. Then we're going to have sine 2 pi divided by 3, close bracket, 9 root 3. No need to turn that into a decimal. Now,
9 root 3 pi.
no pi. The sign gets rid of it. It's all in the calculator. Okay. Next part. Sector minus the triangle gives you the shaded region. Pizza slice minus triangle gives you the end. Okay. Now what we get here is area is going to be 12 pi minus 9 root 3. That's perfectly right, but it asks for it in the form a bracket b pi minus a root a. Means I have to factorize. Take out 3, you get 4 pi minus 3 root 3. Because when you multiply it back in, you get 3 times 4 pi is 12 pi, 3 times 3 root 3 is 9 root 3. That's the answer there. Okay guys. Number 6. A diagram shows a river with parallel banks p meters apart. Excuse me. The vertical trig of height h is directly opposing to point A as shown. Directly opposing means that's 90 degrees down there. From A, the angle of elevation to the top of the tree is 45 degrees. She then walks at point B, which is 50 meters downstream, directly downstream. The distance from B to the base of Q is the angle the distance from B to the base is Q. The angle of elevation of the top of the tree from B is 30. Express P and Q in terms of H. Now guys, look at this. What we're going to do is we're going to label off 3 different triangles. Here's the first one in pink. This one in pink, which I'm going to show you now. The length on the bottom is Q, which is here. The angle is 30 degrees. The height of the tree is H. That is your first triangle created. Now remember, the tree is standing vertically upwards compared to the ground, 90 degrees. Next question, next part is a green triangle. This one here, to here, to here. This green triangle has a height of 45 degrees, has an angle of 45 degrees. The length along the bottom is P and the height is H. The third and final triangle is on the bottom. Another right angle triangle. P and Q is the hypotenuse, okay, and 50 along here. So the third triangle is going to look like this. Okay, P, Q, and 50. Right angle triangle. Step 1. Express P and Q in terms of H. Here's Q and H here. H is the opposite, Q is the adjacent. I'm going to choose tan 30. Tan 30 is H over Q. Bring the Q up and the 30 down. Q equals H over tan 30. Now, that's the same thing as 1 divided by tan 30. Because 1 divided by tan 30 will tell you what it turns into. I'm currently in radians at the moment, which is a problem. Need to go back to degrees. Then we're going to get 1 divided by tan 30. Root 3.
Why 1?
Because I'm basically separating out the H, so I can figure out what this number is on its own. It's the same thing when you multiply. And what we're going to get is Q equals root 3H. Is that right? Next one. Green triangle. Tan 45 equals H over P. Tan 45 is 1. 1 equals H over P. P therefore equals H. 5 marks go on each. Okay, next part after that. So I'll be back down there now. Okay, just going to group this together and bring it down. Okay guys. Okay guys, moving down. So we're asked for a question 2, asked for a quadratic equation in terms of P and Q. I suggest Pythagoras' theorem. Q squared equals P squared plus 50 squared. Q squared equals P squared plus 2,500. Finally, what it's going to do next is, it says solve for H and put your answer as 25 root K. Solve for H means we got to turn P and Q into H's. Q is root 3H squared. P is now H squared plus 2,500. Root 3H squared is root 3H by root 3H, which is root 3 by root 3, which is 3. H by H, which is H squared. 3H squared equals H squared plus 2,500. Bring over the H squared. Comes minus H squared. 2h squared equals 2500. H squared therefore is 1250. Square root 1250. And what we get there is 25 root 2. Exactly the way we wanted it. Okay guys.